Hello and welcome to another edition of Sporting Heritage in Conversation. Sporting Heritage are working on a number of different programmes connected to the Women's Euros 2022, taking place in July across England, and we're really delighted to be involved. One of the programmes we're supporting is the delivery of heritage activity for one of the host cities, Sheffield, funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. These In Conversations are part of that activity. My name is Verity Smith and I'm an Associate Consultant with Sporting Heritage. And today I'm in conversation with Michelle Jackson, a former footballer who played for Leasowe Ladies on the Wirral before moving on to Doncaster in the late 80s. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
We're going to have a chat about Michelle's playing career and her thoughts on the progress of women's football and where we are currently as the Euros tournament approaches. So if I can begin by asking you, Michelle, how did you get into playing football and when was it that you played and who did you play for?
Okay, so such a very long time ago now. So I played football from a very young age. My brother was 18 months younger than me. My dad played Saturday and Sunday league football, so went everywhere with my dad, playing football with other dad's sons. So actually at the time, I probably thought I was the only girl that played football, especially on the Wirral. And at school, so I would have been 10, so around about 78, 79, I was at junior school. And again, during playtimes and lunchtimes, play football on the field with the lads. So the school teacher came up to me at the time and said, would you like to join the school team? So absolutely, I said yes. Turned up for our first game at Valley Road on the Wirral. To be sadly told by the opposing teacher that I couldn't play. They're quite devastated at the time. No rhyme or reason. You know, they used the changing rooms first, and I said, well, I'm already changed, so that doesn't matter. But I suppose back in the day, you know, they didn't want girls playing football with lads or mixed football. So I continued to, apologies for that. I continued to play football, local parks, kids at school. And then I was quite fortunate, or just by chance, I went to play netball for an adult team. I would have been 13, 14 at the time. Went to a youth hostel club in Birkenhead. And I turned up about 10 minutes before the netball training started. And there was a group of girls playing five-a-side. So I just looked at my dad and said, wow, there's some of the girls playing football. Can I join? Can I train next week? So I joined what was the Dolphin Youth Club, which was a five-a-side girls under-18s team. There were seven, 8 players. We went around nationally playing five-a-side tournaments. We didn't play 11-a-side. It was all five-a-side tournaments. And then got noticed by a team called Wirral Ladies, who then became Leasowe Ladies, in summer tournaments. So we're playing five-a-side, playing against these girls. And they said, oh, you know, we run 11-a-side team. Would you like to join? So joined Wirral Ladies. I would have been 15 or 16. They became Leasowe Ladies, and then my dad became the manager of Leasowe Ladies, and then went on to manage Everton Ladies. So that's how I started out. It was by chance I went to play netball, and there were girls playing football, and then it sort of went from there. My background then, so I joined Leasowe Ladies as a teenager, played for them 4 or 5 years. My dad was the manager. We got through to a cup final in 1988 against Doncaster Belles. Unfortunately, we got beat 3-1. I did score the penalty though.
That's amazing.
And at the time, we were playing in regional league, so we were part of the North West Regional League. Doncaster Belles were the North East Regional League, and I was training with the England under-18s and under-21s, so I knew a few of the girls from Doncaster Belles, and they approached me at the end of that cup final for next season and said, would you like to join Belles? So at the time, it's like signing for Liverpool. So you don't say no to Doncaster Belles because they were the best team throughout the whole of the 80s.
Okay, so yeah, that was an amazing opportunity for you then.
Absolutely, yeah. As I say, it was just like signing on for Liverpool or Manchester United as a woman footballer. So I joined the Belles the year after in 1989 and continued to play for the Belles up until 2002. And I kind of retired. There was a bit of playing football in my career. And I was getting to that age where every time I played on a Sunday, I struggled to walk on a Monday. So yeah, so from 1989 to 2002, played for Doncaster Belles.
Wow, that's a fascinating way that you've come into the game, and just, really fascinating to hear about your experience right from grassroots level. And I know that there'll be a lot of people listening and watching this that hopefully are involved in grassroots football or will be inspired to take it up. Given the era that you were playing in and you got involved in the game, and obviously that had come from after a half a century of women's football being banned, what were your experiences in terms of like the attitude towards girls and women's football? Were you kind of a bit shielded from that when you were younger until you played professionally? What were the kind of challenges that you experienced during that time?
Yeah, I think what you got to remember, we were never professional. It didn't turn professional till late 2000. We were girls that loved playing football. We had a passion to play football. We didn't want to compete against men. We wanted to be a women's team in our own right. We had some great talented footballers, both at Leasowe and at Doncaster Belles. I suppose the challenges were, maybe from a lot of men is, should women be playing football? I suppose that was always a question. Maybe they should be home doing other things. And I suppose the other question really was, you'll never play in a mixed team with men, which is what we didn't want, So, we kind of answered our critics by, we're a big part of the local community in Doncaster. There were lots of people that supported Doncaster Belles. So we answered those critics just by, training hard, playing hard, being successful, winning lots of, trophies, FA Cup finals. We were regularly in the newspapers. And we suppose we answered those critics. If they came to our game to watch, we played a lot of our games at Armthorpe Welfare. And if they came to watch, they actually liked what they saw. Even people quoting, actually, I enjoy watching women playing football than men. And that was down to, the men played very much a long ball game and the women played it, on the floor and passing the ball. Yeah. So we converted a lot of those critics, but it was those times, that era, back in the 80s and 90s, where you were always going to get challenging conversations, but we just showed them what we could do on the pitch and very successful.
That's great. And obviously, the way to prove people wrong is obviously by, demonstrating what you can do on the pitch. There isn't any other better way that you can silence those critics. Absolutely. Or did you have challenges in terms of kit or the infrastructure and organisation around football? How do you think it's kind of differed to men? Do you think it's made enough progress in terms of where we are now?
Yeah. So the progress it's made now is absolutely fantastic. I think any woman that played, 20, 30 years ago probably wish they were 21 again. The progression is massive. And I suppose you'd like to think that, us playing in the past has left that legacy for the game to grow. In terms of challenges, huge challenges, we had to pay to play. We weren't paid anything. We all went out to work. We worked hard during the day, getting a salary for our own lives and family. And then we went training. So we trained twice a week. We played on a Sunday. Some of them games when we got to the National League were long journeys, down to London, down to Southampton with a stopover. Yeah. So the challenges out there for us was, we paid our subs, but then we had to go out to the local community to find sponsors. Whether that was a kit sponsor, player sponsor, monies for buses. So that was tough going. I was actually treasurer of Doncaster Belles back then. Okay. So we went out and about in the local community, knocking on local businesses' doors, asking for money, really. We were fortunate. We had, a couple of really good sponsors that supported us.
Okay, so you found the support and, actually the response was...
Yeah. And I think that was because the profile of Doncaster Belles, we were a big team in Yorkshire and in Doncaster, and, these local businesses wanted to support that and keep us going in that National League. But yeah, absolutely tough going. I didn't play when it turned professional. We were just starting to pay a little bit of expenses for players' travel as I finished. But, to see the game now and where it's got to, and, the women's game being supported by local Premier League teams, championship teams is great. Yeah. And that was what was needed.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask whether you had any of your playing career at the end as professional, but it sounds like you've obviously juggled the demands of, kind of normal life, if you like, and working alongside
Absolutely.
Football. And obviously, it just in the last 20 years, that's changed massively for women playing the game now.
Yeah. I think this decade, as I finished in 2002, and players of similar age to me, there's if you move it on a decade, things really starts to change. We all know Sue Smith and Alex Scott and Karen Carney, and their careers carried on after we finished, and you see where they've got to now. It's absolutely brilliant. They're taking the women's game even further, and hopefully, the women's game will continue to grow through the likes of them.
Have you continued to be involved in football since you stopped playing?
No, sadly not. As I say, I left in 2002, and you kind of pick between, playing football and it's not professional. You don't get paid to play. You're doing it because you love it, versus a career. So, I was 33, 34 when I retired, and, my career was very important to me. So I've got a career in banking, and I've a local director, regional director. So that was really important. So that was, paying my bills, paying my mortgage, and, supporting my family. So that was really important. Over the years, my son plays football. He plays for two teams, one in Chesterfield and one in Sheffield. So I support the Saturday team. I help support coach the boys. So hopefully I'm leaving a little bit of legacy for them. But they are 13-year-old boys, so it is tough going.
I was going to say, I'm sure that's quite different to being around a women and girls team. And that's interesting that you've been able to pass that on to the next generation. Because actually I just want to go back, and you mentioned that your father was a football manager, and I'm just wondering, obviously that had an influence in terms of, it sounds like he really supported you playing football. Do you think it would have been very different without that? Do you think that gave you a kind of stronger attitude to fend off the critics, maybe, given that you had a father who was a football manager, but also supporting his daughter playing?
I'm sure it did, and hopefully, there are talented girls out there that may not have had the father who was not only a great footballer, he was a really good manager. So, well, from my point of view, my dad was always very supportive. My brother played football, I played football. He probably did more with me than what he did with my brother, because he could see me probably going further in the game. Mm-hmm. My dad was very competitive. He was a centre half as well. I was a centre half. So there's lots of things I probably took from watching him. And, eventually he went on to, spend a lot of his time, all voluntary, his time as well, supporting the women and progressing them forward. He's a very competitive, motivational guy. Who really wanted to win. So that's probably where a lot of my success comes from, is from my dad. Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant to hear about, and such a lovely story, and a lovely thing to be able to kind of attribute to, your career in playing football. You mentioned that he managed, was it Everton Ladies? Yeah. In the Northwest. He
was. So he was the manager of Leasowe Ladies, who became Everton Ladies. So the year I left to move to Doncaster Belles in '89, and that's when Leasowe Ladies became Everton Ladies. So that was a hard decision. My dad supported me throughout my life, but I think he knew deep down, and I knew deep down, for me to carry on and further my footballing career, that I needed to move to Doncaster Belles. That was something I needed to do. And also in the back of that, we always laugh and joke, because I'm a massive diehard Liverpool fan, season ticket holder. So is my dad. So, the excuse really was, if you think I'm putting on that blue shirt, you've got another thing coming. So, it was an easy decision, really. A blue shirt versus a Doncaster Belles shirt, it was an easy decision. But, my dad went on to manage Everton through to winning the cup final the following year, which is a bit ironic. So, we'd lost the cup final the year before against Belles. I left and moved to Doncaster Belles, and then Everton went on to win the FA Cup final. So he always gives me a bit of a dig about that. Always brings it up. It's probably the only time he went on to win something. But yeah, they won the FA Cup the year of the Hillsborough disaster, which was very fitting given the situation, and they worked hard and deserved to win that cup final.
Yeah.
But yeah, he carried on managing Everton Ladies, and they went on to good things. They joined the National League as well, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. Kind of dynamic within your household, I'm sure. Yeah. Good for you for making what must have been, felt like hard decisions at the time, but actually, proved to be the right ones further down the line. So
yeah,
great to hear about. I just wanted to come back to, you mentioned that, next generation, your son playing football, you're obviously in the South Yorkshire area. I'm just wondering, in terms of football in Sheffield, and obviously Sheffield's got, significant history of and long history of football. Just wondering what you know about women and girls football in Sheffield. Obviously, as a coach of a boys team, I don't know what your perspective is now and how things have moved on, and where the game is at the moment.
So it's great to see where women's football is and girls football is. If I go back to my time at school when I was 10 years old, that's where it all starts really. You talk about grassroots football. Young girls of that age need to be able to play football, whether that's in the local park, whether that's in school, whether that's part of mixed football or even just girls football in isolation. So I followed my son from a very early age, and it's great to see girls taking part in mixed football. Seen a lot of girls playing against my lads' team, and obviously they can go to a girls' team in isolation. So I think from any young girl starting today, please reach out, one, to your school, secondly to the local FA, and find out where they can play football, whether that's mixed or whether that's in a girls' team. There's so many options now which weren't there when I was a youngster. So, please take advantage of it. There's some great teams in and around Yorkshire, and if you love playing football, then please join a team.
Yeah, I to be the case that there's great support, and there's a huge number of clubs at a grassroots level, and I think but there seems to be a distinct difference the further up you get still between women's football and men's football. And obviously men's football's obviously been much more prominent and moneyed and so on, and it seems that women's football is moving in the right direction in those terms, but I think there's obviously still a lot of room for improvement in that area. What are the things you think that would make the difference in that respect?
The last 10-15 years has been massive for women's football, and there's still a long way to go, absolutely, but it's good to see that girls can reach out and find somewhere to play, and you couldn't do that before. The men's games will always be bigger than the women's games. They've been around a lot longer. There's more clubs, there's more interest in boys playing football. I think the next step now is continue to keep that legacy going, keep driving grassroots football at a young level, get girls playing in schools a lot more, get girls school teams, rather than play mixed, let's do school teams that are girls and school teams are playing against each other as girls. There's lots more to do, and I think more importantly, start getting more women, more girls involved in coaching, coaching local teams, local girls teams, local boys team. And I think the more we do that, it'll get more and more traction. But we are getting there. We still got a long way to go, but it's just great to see where it is now.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of when you were learning to coach, were there other women alongside you doing that? Do you feel like that's an area where women are getting involved in football? Because obviously there's lots of different ways to get involved in the game, not just playing, not just coaching. Do you see that across the board in different roles?
Yeah, you do it. You are starting to see it. You look at officiating. We need more women, involved in the game, whether it's a linesman and whether it's a referee. That it's very few and far between, but it's great to see more women getting involved. So, again, it's getting more women involved, whether that's officiating, coaching, playing. But more importantly, I think we've got to start probably at the school. If we can get local schools having girls' football teams, you will get more girls playing football. And I think if we can start to do that, it will start to improve and get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to kind of bring it up to date in terms of, obviously, the Women's Euros tournament is just around the corner. Sheffield is one of the host cities, which is brilliant for the game and for the region. I'm just wondering what you think, how you think that will help, and what you think the legacy will be and should be, and whether those two things are different.
Yeah, so it's great. It's great to see a major competition in England. Absolutely fantastic. It's also great to see that Sheffield and Rotherham have got, hosting two groups.
Yes, of course, Rotherham as well, we should mention.
Yeah. So it's great to see, local teams hosting groups. I believe Sheffield United will get a semi-final as well. I went to the launch of the Euros on Saturday in Sheffield at the Peace Gardens, which was fabulous to see lots of people supporting that and encouraging, families, young children to go to these games. It'll get loads of profile on the TV. It's all the matches are going to be televised, and I am sure the knock-on effect is that you will see more people playing football, whether that's young girls or young boys. You will get to see more people playing football, which would be brilliant.
Definitely, and that's really good to hear that the launch of the roadshow in Sheffield went really well, and it's now about 40 days, I think, until the tournament thereabouts. So it's things are really gearing up. Are you going to any of the Sheffield matches or any of the other matches?
Yeah, so the plan is I'll probably go to a couple of games, one at Rotherham, one at Sheffield. So whilst England aren't in those group games, but yeah, absolutely, I have got a ticket for the semi-final, so I'm just hoping England will get to that semi-final.
Fantastic. And have you got any kind of top tips, or do you think there's a particular team that are going to go all the way through? You, in terms of the teams involved, who do you think is up there to perhaps win it?
Yeah, so I think so there's a few two teams. I think people are talking about Spain, possibly Germany. I'm still holding out for England. I think they did really well in the last Euros. They've got a really good team. The managers, obviously successful managers, won tournaments before. Not that I want to put any pressure on England, but I hope they go all the way. And they've got a great opportunity. So, I am sure they will progress far, and I'd love to see them in the final and win it.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, a very special tournament for them, playing in their home country and on home turf. So they've definitely got that support all the way through, I think.
Absolutely. And I think, if we can get a good crowd at some of these games, and that support filters through. You look at the men last year getting all the way through to the final. Hopefully the women will follow suit, and everybody will be behind them.
That's. Do you think I was just going to come back to your playing days actually, and because you just mentioned crowds, did you get the support in person as your career progressed? Do you think that did you notice the kind of improvement? Because I've spoken to other academics and historians, and they've spoken about 10,000 crowds of 10,000 at games in the early 20th century. So I'm just wondering the level of support that you got while you were playing.
Yeah, probably not quite that. I think early doors, especially during the war, there was lots of people at ladies' games because the men were away at war. So we were fortunate. We got a good crowd at Armthorpe. You're probably a good crowd for us, anything between 100 and 500 people, especially in the local community, which is great for us. I think when we went to away games, it was probably less so. You could clearly see that Doncaster were very well supported, and maybe other teams didn't get that support and that backing. Probably the major games, when you got to the FA Cup final, they were the ones that televised on TV. They were attended far better than the local Premier League games. And you're probably talking of a couple of thousand, certainly not in the tens of thousands back in the 90s. But, a couple of thousand people supporting the women's game was pretty good back then. But it's good to see now there's more and more people going to these games.
Yeah, definitely. Clearly come a long way. So that's really good to see in person, actually, the effects that the progress in women's football and the attraction now that it is. Thank you so much for speaking to me today, Michelle. It's been fascinating to hear about your playing days and your thoughts on the upcoming Euros, and I hope that you enjoy the games, and especially that semi-final. Let's hope England will be in that semi-final. Thank you.
That's my fingers crossed. I've got my ticket for the semi-final at Bramall Lane, so it'd be good to see England there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.